Damar Hamlin has been discharged from the hospital, and rioters have stormed the Brazilian capital. The 299 News starts now.
Welcome to the 299 News for Monday, January 9th, 2023. I'm Aiden.
And I'm Matt.
I'm Cole. And boys, I have breaking news. This is an insane one. The rioters rioted at the Brazilian capital, including the Congress, the presidential palace, and the Supreme Court. Matt, what do you know about this?
Today, 1,500 far-right supporters detained in Brazil. These rioters were seeking military intervention to overthrow the election, to either put Mr. Bolsonaro into the presidency or oust already inaugurated leftist Luiz Lula. It's very similar to the January 6th attack on the Capitol. And it's not
on the U.S. Capitol.
On the U.S. Capitol, and it's another example of, a far right presence with it in our modern age.
That's insane, bro.
Oh, Mr. Bolsonaro, he said that that protests are fair, but attacks are shouldn't. I don't know what to find the words. Should not. Pretty much, he's condemned
Or not
them.
correct.
Not correct. He's condemned the riots, but he has also stated without evidence that the voting systems were fraud. So when I say it's very similar to what happened January 6th and Trump saying that voting systems were fraud and the selection was stolen from him, it's very similar to that. That kind of arrogance to state that everyone else is wrong but him. He's not but what's interesting is that he hasn't opposed the transition of power, but he is neither conceded defeat. So
it's interesting. I don't know if you guys heard,
but
Putin was advocating for these riots. He wasn't condemning them like many world leaders, and he was. Well, I'm not going to say he was supporting them, but he wasn't saying that they were bad either. He was saying that the people were fighting for a fair election. That it was a and I assume he was referring to the idea of popular sovereignty, where in the U.S. Constitution, popular sovereignty is the idea that if all the majority of people want to get rid of the government, then they should be allowed to. So, I'm guessing that's what Putin was using as a way of an excuse for this, is that if the majority of the Brazilian people don't want him, they want Lula to be the president, then he shouldn't be the president. But obviously, I'm not going to say obviously, but this isn't true because clearly Lula won the election.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which means at least the plurality want him to be the leader of Brazil.
Yeah.
Aiden, you have anything you want to add on to this? So, what do you guys think this means for international relations wise? Do you think this changes the way the United States views Brazil? Do you think at all? Or major powers?
I feel like it's another example of what I said this before of far right, intervention and presence within the modern day. It's becoming more. I don't know. You could disagree with me if you want, but what I've seen is becoming more prevalent with many far right ideologies and beliefs are kind of coming up in the mainstream. People are they're starting to threaten central governments of different countries. That's so what's different about it is that they're not huge. Like far right groups such as like neo Nazis in the United States, they're not huge groups. So even though they throw these threats, but throw these threats at like the government, say they're going to undermine over like kickstart a civil war. They don't really have the numbers or the capability to do that. So and it's like that with White House and the pressure to expel after bills over. Yeah.
Because we haven't even talked about the fact that Bolsonaro is in the United States.
Yeah.
And that he's in Florida. But I know it was announced today that he was hospitalized in Florida.
Yeah.
Where a Texas representative, Democrat, wanted to extradite Bolsonaro back to Brazil. Do you think the United States should let world leaders that retired world leaders come to the United States? Let's see, like Merkel. Do you think Merkel should be allowed to come to the United States? I mean, she's a retired world leader.
Yeah, I don't see why
I
not.
don't see why not.
So then why can't? So what's the difference between that and Bolsonaro?
Well,
I guess what the argument is by some people.
Well, Merkel was an ally to the United States, and Bolsonaro is, like what I've seen, has kind of little far right tendencies, which
He's
kind
probably
of
more of a Trump
which
supporter.
since the January 6th attack on the Capitol, that's kind of like it's the U.S. is more aware of or cautious of that, so it would make sense that they would reject Bolsonaro and accept Merkel. So
I think another thing that people need to keep an eye out for is that Brazil is a part of BRICS as well. BRICS is an economic alliance. It stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. And it's an economic alliance between those 5 countries to support one another economically. The thing is, this is not a military alliance. So
yeah.
India, I'm pretty sure a good chunk of India's weapon supplies comes from BRICS, specifically Russia. So, yeah. So Brazil is a part of that group. Those Chads, if you know what I mean. It's like the European Union of everybody else. Instead, it's only 5 countries instead of 20.
Yeah.
So, any last thoughts on Brazil before we move on?
No.
Alright, well, so on Sunday, for the first time since taking office, President Joseph Biden finally visited the U.S.-Mexico border in El Paso, Texas, as the immigration issue has been heating up over the last couple weeks. And with the new Republican majority in Congress in session, what better time to visit the border? This visit comes after the Supreme Court extended Title 42, which was invoked under the Trump administration to deny immigration into the United States due to the COVID-19 pandemic. It also comes after the United States requested extradition of El Chapo's son, who was arrested in Mexico just a couple of days ago. The president didn't speak with any of the migrants, but said in a tweet he wants to secure the border and fix the immigration process to be orderly, fair, safe, and humane. But Congress will have to act in order to get any real immigration reform legislation passed. President Joe Biden also met Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador at the North American Leaders Summit combined. They earned the nickname the Three Amigos, despite tensions between López Obrador and Biden last year when Obrador snubbed Biden's invite to the Summit of the Americas in LA due to the absence of Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua's leaders. And also, Mexico is in an energy dispute between the U.S. and Canada because the president of Mexico argues that there is a matter of national sovereignty since the previous administrator skewed the market for favor of private interest, even though, in reality, the energy firms have been disadvantaged by Lopez Obrador's campaign to give control of the market to his cash-strapped state energy companies. Lopez Obrador and Biden also spoke about combating the drug cartels and securing U.S. financial aid to bring solar energy to northern Mexico. They also talked about a ban on genetically modified American corn that is effective starting 2025.
So today, the Georgia Special
They have this recording on January 9th, 2023.
January 6th committee investigation was dissolved by Special Court Judge Robert McBurney. They haven't released the final report yet. They said they will have a meeting on January 24th to discuss whether they will be releasing it. It's just a matter of what are they going to release, all of the final report or just parts of it. And that came in Judge Robert McBurney's order, and to release it to the public. And what I could get from the article I read was concluded by it is that Trump engaged in multi-party conspiracy and has failed to stop his supporters from attacking the Capitol. That has been released so far. When January 24th comes, we'll read some of the final report and talk about that. What we think. All right. So moving on. We want to move on from this.
Sure.
Yeah, we can move on to
on today's recording, January 9th, 2023. Damar Hamlin was discharged from the hospital.
Not dispatched?
Not
dispatched?
dispatched.
Not dispatched.
Wasn't dispatched. Okay. He was discharged from the hospital. He's doing well now. He's alive. And yeah, he was able to watch all of the Bills game yesterday from his hospital bed. And yeah.
Good. I'm glad he's back.
happy day for all.
He's on injury reserve though.
Yeah.
So he will not be playing. And it is now time. The sports section. I don't know. Do some weird intro thing. Woo, woo, woo. Wait, Matt, maybe we should both start from the top and come down to the bottom with our fingers at the same time. Oh.
I'm trying to be cool.
Alright. So to start our sports section. Today is the college football national championship between the Georgia Bulldogs and the TCU Horned Frogs. The YouTube captions on this one. So, Georgia is a 14-point favorite, which in college football terms is a lot. That's a 2-touchdown favorite. And on ESPN, 29% of people are taking TCU to cover the spread. By that means for them to either win the game or lose by less than 14. But 71% of people think that Georgia is going to win by 14 points or more. If we go over, can actually see what the total number is of people who think Georgia's going to win and how many people think that TCU is going to win. 79% of people on ESPN's form for all of the games in college this year, 79% think that Georgia is going to become 15-0 this year and win the championship. While only 21% think the 3-1 TCU Horned Frogs can pull off the upset. TCU had a losing record last year and have made a Cinderella comeback this year with a brand new head coach in his first ever year. Only one other coach has ever won the championship in his first ever year, and it was in like the early 1900s. I can't even remember. I think it was the 1930s. And his name was like George Washington. Let's not put that part in because I don't know his name. His name was George Washington.
No, we're keeping it. George Washington was alive in the 1930s, ladies and gentlemen.
George Washington was alive, and he was coaching a college football team.
Legends say he's still alive.
And speaking of that, on this Monday we have the NFL playoff bracket. It is time for all three of us to make our decision on who's going to win the Super Bowl this year. All right, so our 14 teams include from 1 to 7 on the AFC. We got the Chiefs, the Bills, the Bengals, the Jaguars, Chargers, Ravens, and Dolphins. While on the NFC, we got the Eagles, 49ers, Vikings, Buccaneers, Cowboys, Giants, and Seahawks. Aiden, who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl?
Not the Green Bay Packers, that's for sure. You guys hear about Aaron Rodgers? You guys hear about Aaron Rodgers though?
What about him?
He said earlier today he is considered maybe stepping away from a football.
He said that like 2 years now, and he still hasn't done it.
Yeah, he said it again though. Possibly because they didn't make the playoffs, but no. All seriousness.
He's saying it a third year in a row.
Cool. Let me make my prediction.
No.
So okay, so the Bengals played last year.
The Bengals? They played in the Super Bowl, yes.
Yeah, last year. And yeah, they had their 15 minutes of fame. So I would rule them out. 49ers.
Interesting pick. Who are you taking?
Was Cowboys one of the options? No.
Yes.
They weren't. No, they were? Okay, then I'll go with those. I'll go with them.
Good pick.
All right. So starting this year, AT&T is suspending its operator service when you dial 0 or 411 on its digital phone service, formerly part of the Uverse cable package. So, yeah, if you need to look up any phone numbers, there's this thing. It's called Google. I highly recommend it. If you feel like wearing a tinfoil hat, there's another website called DuckDuckGo, but we'll get into that later. We'll have that talk another day. Moving on, going to San Francisco, Samsung is going to be unveiling its line of Galaxy S23 phones at its Unpacked event in San Francisco on the 1st of February. They're updating the Galaxy S23 phones, and they're doing that because, well, the S22 phones sucked, so they got to make some upgrades in terms of battery life, maybe even storage capacity. There has been talk of them raising the price by $100, but those rumors are kind of sketchy because they made similar claims about the iPhone 14 last year, and well, obviously they aged like milk, so we'll just, pretend those rumors don't exist. But yeah, the S23 Ultra is going to mainly just be a minor improvement over the S22 Ultra, so nothing crazy going on over there, but that's news from Samsung. Meanwhile, CES officially ended today as we record. So we're going to take a look at a couple things that happened, starting with one of the most common things, phone cases. The OtterBox Otter Grip. Kind of a weird name, but we'll just let that slide. Basically, it's a silicone phone case with a pop socket grip thingy on the back. Has a MagSafe built in. It'll cost $60 and it'll be available for the iPhone 14. You got an iPhone 13 or older or an Android. I don't know if they're even making them for those phones. So, sorry, not cool enough. All right. Next, we're going to talk about wireless TVs. They introduced a couple of wireless TVs at the CES. One was from LG, one was from Displace. Basically, they're going to let you stream content from a box, and the TV is going to stream from that box where you plug all your devices in. Now, LG's version is kind of cheesy and also ridiculously overpriced. It hides the power cord within the TV stand, so it's not really wireless, which is kind of stupid. But Displace, they have a wireless TV with removable batteries that are supposed to last about a day, which is pretty cool. But Yeah, but that version's going to cost $3,000. So if you have that kind of money laying around, then yeah.
No, I do.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I lost it all at the casino.
All right. But yeah, they'll probably become more commonplace in the next 10 or so years. But I don't know. We'll see how that works out. Moving on, Sony and Honda are teaming up on an electric car. So I guess that's cool. Pricing's unknown, but they're going to start manufacturing in early 2025, and they'll start shipping in 2026. All right. Now, I got some interesting news about BMW. They are unveiling, or they have unveiled, the iVision D concept car, which has no switches and no physical buttons at all. It also comes with a voice assistant that's integrated into the windshield named D. Totally not creepy. And the car could change color, something that'll be popular with people that like stealing cars and getting away with it. The car is expected to cost £50,000, which translates to about 60,000 American dollars. But they're saying the feature set is going to make its way to its new cars starting in 2025. So it's not officially available to the mainstream yet. So sorry. And finally, our main story for this week for tech news: flying cars have arrived, about 8 years behind schedule. The Azka A5 is a $789,000 flying car, and you can pre-order one if you pay $5,000 laying around as like a down payment. It's still awaiting FAA approval to hit the skies, but when it does, you can board one via its ride-hailing service that's expected to launch in 2026 because, let's face it, most of you don't have nearly $1 million laying around in the bank.
I do.
No, you don't. You lost it all at the casino.
Oh, right.
They're all expected to become fully autonomous and talk to each other so they don't crash into each other at some point in 2030. But until then, the air traffic controllers will treat said vehicles the same way they do with small airplanes. That was an air traffic controller. Trust me. So, why even try one out? Well, apparently you could fly past traffic at 150 miles per hour and go on a 100-mile commute in just a half hour. Now, if only there was a wireless charging station thingy there, or charging station for that matter. Oh yeah, right. And then with that, that's tech news. So, here's today's historical topic.
All
right. Shall we, Matt?
So today we are going to be talking about Shays Rebellion.
Jesus.
Shays.
Shays
Daniel
Rebellion.
Shays.
Shays is his last name, and then it's the apostrophe S.
Yeah.
Shays.
Yeah, it's
All right.
Shays.
All right.
Shays is his last name.
All right, man.
You're right, Matthew.
Yeah. What the heck was that?
Damn it, Matthew.
All I heard
Again.
was we're gonna be talking about Shays' Rebellion following the Revolutionary War.
Oh my God, it's Shays Rebellion.
I'm gonna hit you, Cole. I swear. I will come to your house and I will beat you.
You don't know where I live.
And you know what I will do to Kermit? I will do terrible things to Kermit. I will do terrible things to Kermit. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about Shays' Rebellion following the end of the Revolutionary War, as well as the Articles of Confederacy and how that...
Federation.
Articles of Confederation and how that caused the the rebellion. So, what I think would be important to set down first to explain is that the system of government that was... Put your goddamn phone away, or I will. What's important to understand is that the Articles of Confederation were not the same as it was, and add if you want to add anything, you can. It was not this. The Articles of Confederation was not the same as our the Constitution. It had its policies were much different. The central federal government did not have as much power as it does today. It couldn't tax its. It couldn't couldn't enact and collect taxes. It also couldn't influence foreign trade. That was up to states. It was as if each state was technically under the jurisdiction of the U.S. federal government, but it had significant autonomy. So that left with a lot of the with debt following the Revolutionary War, foreign debt following the Revolutionary War. They had no way to pay off that debt.
Under the Articles of Confederation, state government was supreme to federal government, compared to the Constitution in which it is now, where federal government is supreme to state government. Instead, it took 9 out of the 13 states to pass an amendment to the Articles of Confederation, which means that large states and smaller states aren't going to agree on what's getting passed, which meant it was a gridlock almost. And the Articles of Confederation was just a loose league or friendship between the 13 colonies rather than a uniting of them. It was the national government prior to the Constitution and prior to any form of government being completed. So, but afterwards, so in the early 1700s, that Shays Rebellion is. What is this?
It was 1786. It started as in August 1786 as when Daniel Shays read a group of I don't know protesters, I would say, to
I wrote down angry and disgruntled farmers.
Farmers, yeah, angry and disgruntled farmers who were veterans of the Revolutionary War, and part of the reasons why they were upset is that they felt they were not, for what their service in the war, they were not compensated for it. And at the time, because
and also the state court announced that they were foreclosing mortgages on their farms.
Yeah,
which was the main cause of their taking action.
The reason why, because they were foreclosing their properties, that these farmers had, because there was no real money, because no money circulating within the system, so and I guess the only really available currency was it was a continental currency, which was so not valuable that it's a phrase. They coined the phrase "not worth a continental."
Inflation.
It was It was inflation.
Sound familiar to you guys?
It does. Yeah. So, because of that, a lot of farmers were in debt to pay. They put pretty much use credit to buy products and services for their farms, but it was similar to a tab. So they were as they bought services, they were stacking on debt, as well as being taxed by the Massachusetts legislature. That because there was no federal tax, it was pretty much state tax, and so while they were being taxed and with debt, their property was being foreclosed because they couldn't pay that off because they had no money. So they decided, led by Daniel Shays, Daniel Shays led a rebellion and raided a bunch of courthouses.
Springfield, Massachusetts. And this caused, since the Articles of Confederation made it really difficult for a state government to form a militia, the rebellion actually made some really good progress. And it ended up, when it was finally put down and a militia was finally formed to put it down, it caused the high forms of government in the states to come together to change and then realize that the Articles of Confederation no longer was working and that they needed some other form, which caused the meeting in Philadelphia, the Constitutional Convention, I think. where two plans were proposed: the Virginia plan and the New Jersey plan. So here, I'll do the Virginia plan. Matt, I'll give you the New Jersey plan if you have.
Yep,
If you
I
did
got it.
those. Okay. So the Virginia plan called for a bicameral legislation, a two-house Congress almost, which would appoint executive and judicial officers, and the idea would be favoring large states because Virginia is a large state at this time, where each state got represented based on their population rather than each state getting one vote. It would be very similar to the Electoral College, where like California gets 50 votes and Maine gets like 2. But it formed a more powerful central government compared to what it had, compared to the Articles of Confederation. And now over to Matt with the New Jersey plan.
All right, so
the New Jersey.
the New Jersey's plan was proposed as a counteract of the Virginia plan. I have a document right here. I'll just read it off so I to best explain it. So, the New Jersey plan was a proposal for the structure of the United States government. Oh, my mouth here. Proposed by William Patterson on June 15th, 1787. The plan was created in response. Can you hear that?
A little bit, but
I
it's fine. This is
Okay.
not over. It's
The plan was created in response to the Virginia plan's call for 2 houses of Congress. Both elected with proportional representation. So that was the Virginia plan. The less populous states were adamantly opposed to giving most of the control of the national government to the larger states, and so proposed an alternate plan that would have given 1 vote per state for equal representation under one legislative body. Under the New Jersey plan, the organization of the legislature was similar to that of the modern-day United Nations and other like institutions. This position reflected the belief that the United States were independent entities, and as they entered the United States of America freely and individually, so they remained. The New Jersey plan also gave power to regulate trade and to raise money by taxing foreign goods. And there's more, goes more like into more specifics, and makes it more easy to understand. And so the branches, there was 3: legislative, executive, and judicial. The legislative appoints people to serve in the executive branch, and the executive branch selects justices of the Supreme Court. So, voting-wise, it goes from the legislative, the executive, to the judicial. Legislation, 1 house, unicameral. States would be represented equally, so all states had the same power. Similar to the Virginia plan, the federal government was given more power than it did with the Articles of Confederation. So
the framers realized that that they needed to form a central government, and that was the main issue. So all of the plans proposed a stronger central government, but eventually they came to a great compromise.
So it was the agreement was most of the components of the agreement were unanimous. But the one issues was the voting wise, like how many should it be states be represented proportional wise, or all be given the same representation. So more specifically, the national government could levy taxes and import duties and regulate trade, and state laws would be subordinate to laws passed by the national legislature. So exactly, so that would remedy a lot of the issues that they had prior to the Constitutional Convention, which was the meeting where they ratified the Constitution in 1787.
Did they sign the 3/5 compromise that day too? Is that a part of it? No, I think that was prior to a little bit before the Civil War, actually.
That's the compromise. Let me look at let me
on Google. So 1787. All right, it was a part of it. All right, 3/5 compromise for all the people on the viewers. So the 3/5 compromise was agreement as a part of the Constitution, saying that 3/5 of all slaves would be considered people.
Oh,
So instead of them recognizing each slave as one person, it was considered 0.6 of a person. So if you had 5 slaves, 3 of them would be recognized when it came to voting and taxing purposes, rather than all 5 of them. The whole point of this was that the South was saying that they should all be recognized, while the North, it was the other way around. The South was saying that they shouldn't be recognized, and the North was saying they should. So it was a compromise in between 3/5.
all right. Thank you for watching. We'll be back next week with a new video, and just comment down below what you want us to, what historical topic you want us to talk about next.
All right.
Bye, guys.
See y'all later.
Bye, everyone. See y'all later.
Bye.